After 30 days in recovery, my son's refusal to help revealed an incredible, life-changing truth. In the heart of Ohio, Sarah felt like the world was spinning out of control. Her son, Jake, stood at the threshold of their modest home, finally back after 30 long days in rehab. But instead of brightness, shadows loomed over them. "Why can't you just help out around here?" she begged, her voice barely above a whisper, the weight of unspoken fears choking her. Jake turned away, retreating into the silence of his own battle, leaving Sarah with a tight chest and tears blurring her vision. It was a scene Sarah had replayed in her mind countless times. The dinner table, once vibrant with laughter, had turned into a battleground of tension. Each evening, she and her daughter, Lily, faced an empty chair where Jake used to sit, and the silence grew heavier. It wasn't just about the chores or helping Lily, who faced cruel taunts from classmates. No, it was deeper, the crack in their family, the loss of connection that seemed to widen with every passing day. As she whipped up another dinner of spaghetti and meatballs, a family favorite, Sarah glanced at Jake's darkened bedroom. Memories surfaced, bedtime stories, soccer games, the rush of joy when Jake scored his first goal. But now, that joy felt like a distant echo. Despair clawed at her. She was drowning under the weight of her responsibilities, torn between her fierce love for Jake and the urgent need to protect Lily. "I can't do this alone," she whispered to herself, the words hanging mournfully in the air. Then, one fateful evening, everything changed. An urgent phone call from a neighbor shattered her reverie. The news was grim: another boy from the community, much like Jake, had succumbed to addiction. The stark reality sunk in, forcing Sarah to confront her own terror. She had been boxing in the shadows, afraid of what people might think. Stirred by desperation, Sarah decided to speak out, to finally shed the facade of perfection at a local church meeting. Her heart raced. Before she knew it, she was standing before a sea of familiar faces, exposing the raw vulnerability beneath her determined exterior. "This is our reality," she exclaimed, the room tinged with tension. As she recounted their family's struggles, unexpected warmth enveloped her. Others nodded, sharing their stories of love lost and battles fought. It was cathartic, yet every smile from the crowd felt like a distant echo in Jake's world robbed of hope. "Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. As the tension mounted, the holiday season approached, and with it heightened emotions. Each time Sarah thought about asking Jake for help, doubt gripped her heart. Would he ever be ready? Would he awaken, or would they remain tethered to this painful silence? Just as she felt the pulling apart of their family unit could tear her apart, Jake hit a moment of clarity. In a volatile mix of pain and realization, he found himself at the edge of an epiphany, one that could either mend their fractured family or push them into further despair. A truth lay ready to unveil itself, hanging in the balance, waiting for the right moment to ignite change. Would it be the spark that healed them, or the force that drove them apart forever? The days turned into a blur as the holidays crept closer. Sarah found herself oscillating between hope and despair. The Christmas lights twinkled outside, but all she felt was a dull ache inside. The world outside felt too cheerful, too bright, for the darkness that hung around their home. She would wake up each morning with a determination to bridge the gap between her and Jake, but those hopes often crumbled when faced with the reality of his retreating silence. One morning, as she stood in the kitchen with flour dusting her hands while preparing Christmas cookies, her thoughts drifted back to the church meeting. The stories of shared suffering had ignited something within her. She knew she wasn't alone, but even with that knowledge, she felt isolated. All the while, a pervasive concern for Jake loomed. He spent his days shut away in his room, sometimes with muffled music blaring, often without eating or engaging. Each thing he failed to do felt like another brick added to the wall between them. Lily, her gentle and compassionate daughter, was trying her best to adapt. She brought home handmade ornaments from school, wanting to decorate the tree together, but Sarah could feel the tension seeping through the air. "Mom, do you think Jake will help us this time?" Lily asked one afternoon, her eyes filled with anticipation mixed with a hint of expectation. The question stuck like a thorn in Sarah's throat. "I hope so, honey," she forced out, battling the lump in her chest, but deep within, the truth gnawed at her. Jake needed a reason to care, and no amount of Christmas cheer could fill that void without his willingness to engage. Then came the day of the holiday party at the local community center. Sarah hesitated, torn between wanting to protect Jake from the festive pressures and desperately needing him to heal in front of loving faces. After much deliberation, she decided to bring him along, believing it might spark some connection, some glimpse of the boy she once knew. As they walked into the bustling center, Jake's discomfort was palpable. He hung back, a wall of indifference surrounding him. But Sarah, with determination, held firmly to her hope. She nudged him gently. "Look, there's hot cocoa and your favorite cookies." The slightest twitch at the corner of his lip suggested he might be interested, but still he stood frozen. Moments stretched, laughter broke out and fading echoes met the warmth of the holiday spirit. Sarah smiled at the families gathered, exchanging stories and joy, all while her heart ached for Jake. When a familiar face approached a family friend, Tom, she saw the potential for connection. Tom leaned in, his voice kind. "Hey, Jake. Remember our football games? We'd love to get you involved again." For a brief moment, she caught a flicker of interest in Jake's eyes. The walls began to crack just a little, however, the tension rushed back as he shook his head, retreating again into silence. Sarah felt frustration and love intertwining into a tight knot. "Please, Jake," she whispered, but he barely glanced her way. Just when Sarah thought they were back at square one, Tom's next words took her by surprise. "Jake, I understand. But sometimes, acknowledging the pain is the first step to healing." The words hung heavy in the air, resonating with a clarity that pierced through the holiday joy. It was as if the world shut down for just a moment, leaving Jake standing there with a choice to acknowledge the pain and perhaps take a step forward. As the evening wore on, Sarah's heart pounded in her chest. Would this moment be the catalyst Jake needed? Would it ignite a flicker of hope that could illuminate their path forward? Meanwhile, Jake's internal struggle deepened, a storm brewing within him. Moments passed, yet his silence lingered like a shadow, waiting to shift. The question loomed in the air like a ticking clock: could this holiday bring about that long-awaited change? Or would it once again end in silence? The community center buzzed with laughter and cheer, yet Jake remained an island of solitude within the bustling crowd. Sarah stole glances at him from time to time, caught between the warmth of the celebrations and the chill of her son's detachment. She could hardly breathe, feeling like each heartbeat was a reminder of the distance between them. As the holiday spirit enveloped everyone around, Sarah sensed how desperately Jake needed this moment. Tom had opened a door, but it was up to Jake to walk through it. She thought back to the conversation about pain and healing. Part of her wondered if Jake even knew how to confront what haunted him. A helplessness began to take hold, threading anxiety through her chest. "Hey, Jake," Lily said brightly, breaking through the intensity of the moment. She ran over with a handful of cookies, her smile radiating innocence. "They have gingerbread and hot cocoa. Can you come try some?" Her cheerful voice was like a sunbeam piercing through a heavy cloud. Jake gave a faint shake of his head, his eyes downcast. For a moment, the hope flickered in Lily's gaze before it dimmed, her little shoulders sagging. "Okay," she said softly, her voice barely audible over the music. Sarah felt her heart sink as she watched the silent exchange. She wanted to scream at Jake to let them in, to reach for the warmth of family and the festive love surrounding them. Yet she also knew that demanding wouldn't help. She took a deep breath, trying to quell the storm brewing inside her. Just then, a group of children raced past, giggling uncontrollably, and Lily perked up. Can we dance, Mom? Please. The enthusiasm in her little voice was infectious, and before Sarah knew it, they were moving toward the dance floor, as if pulled by a magnetic force. Come on, Jake. You should dance with us. Lily's voice echoed with unrelenting optimism, her small hand stretching toward him. Jake glanced towards the dance floor, briefly distracted but ultimately unmoved. I'm fine, he mumbled. Just for a minute. She pleaded, a hint of desperation creeping into her tone. Sarah felt a headache building. How could he not see the joy around him? Wouldn't he want to be a part of this? Yet, as her anger flared, she noticed the trembling in Jake's fists. Looking closely, she detected a battle raging within him. Jake, you can let go, you know that, right? Sarah spoke softly, rekindling that tight knot of frustration and love in her heart. She took a careful step toward him, wanting so desperately to bridge the gap. He looked at her then, his eyes brimming with emotions he had kept bottled up for far too long. I don't know how, he whispered, almost lost in the noise around them. In that moment, the world around them blurred, leaving only the two of them standing on opposite sides of an invisible chasm. Tears threatened to spill over from Sarah's eyes. Here it was the truth that had been hiding under layers of silence, fear, and pain. Jake, it's okay. You don't have to know how to dance with us, you just have to want to try. A heartbeat of silence passed. Compounding pressures peeled away as Jake wrestled with the knowledge that he wasn't alone. But would he reach out? There, between the flickering lights of hope and despair, an unexpected truth lingered. It hovered in the space between Sarah and Jake, begging to be addressed. Would this moment be the threshold he needed to step through? Or would doubt consume him once more? As she held her breath, waiting for a response, an inexplicable weight settled in the air, charged with possibility. Would he find the courage to step forward? Sarah's heart raced as she looked into Jake's eyes, searching for any sign of the son she once knew. The noise of the holiday celebration faded, it was just them now, standing at the edge of a precipice. In that silence, the moment stretched and pulsed, heavy with unspoken words. Jake, she began, her voice steady but laced with urgency, you are safe here. You can be yourself. She took another step closer, willing him to feel the warmth radiating from the surrounding crowd. For a moment, it looked as if he might crack, the tightness in his posture softening. But then, just as quickly, the walls came crashing back down. You don't understand, he said, almost pleading, I can't. I can't just forget. Sarah's composure wavered for the first time. Forget? No one expects you to forget, but maybe, just maybe, you can choose to feel something else instead. She reached out slightly, her fingers brushing against his arm, a gentle reminder of their bond that he flinched at the contact, his entire frame tightening like a coiled spring. I don't want to feel anything, he muttered. The admission hung like a dark cloud, the words tinged with a sadness that twisted painfully in the pit of her stomach. Jake, she whispered, not feeling anything. Isn't the answer. It's okay to feel scared, or angry, or even happy. You deserve to feel something without fear. The swirling energy around them was electric now, charged with possibility yet clouded by his doubt. She waited, her heart thrumming in sync with the pulsing music. Would he step into that light, or continue to dwell in the shadows of his own making? Suddenly, Lily reappeared, her tiny fingers clutching a cookie, her face awash with innocence and joy. Jake! Please come dance. You can't just stand there. Jake glanced back at Lily, a flicker of something, was it hope or pain? Crossing his face. Sarah's chest tightened. Could this be the moment? The last moment before the tide changes. She forced herself to breathe, the weight of the world resting on his fragile shoulders. You know, it's okay to start small. Even a single step could lead to more. With an almost imperceptible nod, Jake's gaze returned to the dance floor, where children twirled and laughed, the exuberance drawing him in. For the first time, she saw a battle waging on his face, not just between light and darkness, but between the desire to change and the fear of doing so. the moment felt fragile, like a soap bubble floating in the air. Just as quickly as it formed, it could pop, and she feared it would. Still, she had to believe. She had to hope. Just try it, Jake, for Lily, she urged softly. Then came the strangest sound, a quiet, almost imperceptible breath releasing from Jake's lips. He seemed to deflate, the tension easing just a fraction. He took a hesitant step forward, a choice shaping the air around them. It was tiny, almost unnoticeable, yet monumental in its significance. As he swayed slightly, uncertain on his feet, another part of her heart surged with pride. And there it was, that sparkle of possibility in Lily's eyes as she watched her brother take that step toward the dance floor, an unguarded invitation to joy. But before Sarah could celebrate, doubt flickered across Jake's face again. He hesitated, his feet frozen. Would he take that final plunge, or retreat? As the music swelled and the moment hung in precarious balance, a frantic whisper coiled tightly in her chest. Jake, please don't stop now. Would this be the turning point he'd been waiting for, or would fear push him back into isolation? The seconds felt like hours as Jake faltered, caught between wanting to embrace the joy he had long denied and the heavy chains of his past. Sarah's breath hitched in her throat as she held her own heart open for him, hoping he could feel the warmth of their shared love even in this moment of hesitation. Just one step, she urged, her voice gentle but firm. For Lily. For yourself. Eyes darting back to the laughter enveloping them, Jake's expression twisted with conflict. The soft glow of fairy lights danced in his irises, illuminating a struggle she knew all too well. It was the battle between pain and possibility, stark and unyielding. But then, amidst his uncertainty, Lily's laughter rang out, pure and unrestrained. Come on, Jake. It'll be fun. Her little voice cut through the tension like a beam of sunlight breaking through clouds. It was a call to adventure, a promise of happiness extending its hand, waiting for him to grasp it. Swallowing hard, Jake took a small step forward. It was almost imperceptible, but Sarah felt the shift in the air. A crack in the dam of self-imposed isolation. His body language began to soften, a tension unraveled in his shoulders just a fraction more. See? Sarah said, a flicker of excitement lighting up her features. You're already doing it. But even as he moved his feet, doubt loomed heavily around him. For every step he took, an unspoken worry clung to his every breath. Fear had held him captive for so long, leaving it behind felt terrifying. Yet, somehow, there was something beautiful blossoming just beneath the surface, a flicker of hope ready to be ignited. Then, before Sarah could breathe a sigh of relief, Jake froze. The moment stood still as if the universe collectively held its breath. What if I can't? He murmured, a whisper laced with anxiety. What if I can't be the brother she wants? The son you need? The air thickened with his hesitation. He was on the cusp of a transformation but terrified of losing everything he had known, even the grief that felt safer than new beginnings. This isn't just about being perfect, Sarah replied, her heart thumping wildly as she stepped closer. It's about being open. You don't have to be someone else, just be you. The you we've always loved. It was as if she had said his name in a new way, opening doors he thought were bricked shut. For the first time, Jake glanced at Lily and saw her wide eyes shimmering with hope. She was still and steady, her unconditional love pouring out like light, and just like that, it hit him. This wasn't a singular battle, it was a shared journey. Wasn't that what family was? A group of flawed individuals walking side by side, offering their hands even when the path is uncertain. Jake closed his eyes, the walls inside him beginning to crack. It was a painful process, but one he was willing to navigate for the sake of connection. He could feel the music thrumming beneath his skin, urging him to sway, to step into life instead of away from it. With a deep breath, he opened his eyes. The edge of uncertainty still lurked close, but within him was a flicker, a small fire of courage ignited by love. Okay, he exhaled, voice trembling but resolute as he turned fully toward the dance floor. For Lily. He took one step, then another, hesitant but moving. It was just a beginning, but it felt like the first push towards something glorious. As the crowd parted, laughter erupted like fireworks. Sarah's heart soared as she watched Jake draw closer to the jubilant swirl of little bodies. This was the moment she had been praying for, the spark she hoped would take hold, but just as she allowed herself to breathe, a familiar shadow loomed from the edge of the celebration, a figure from the past, watching closely with a tight-lipped smile. A chill ran down her spine. "Who is that?" she whispered to herself, heart sinking. What if the past would break this fragile moment? What if they couldn't sustain the progress they had just begun? Fear crept back in, but hope lingered too. Would Jake see them? Would he stand strong in the face of the nonsense that threatened to pull him back? All Sarah could do was watch and wait, her heart racing again, wondering what this encounter would mean for them. Sarah's heart thudded in her chest as she strained to get a better look at the figure lingering at the edge of the celebration. The flickering lights cast an ominous glow to the familiar face, one she had hoped never to see again. The moment felt suspended, like an exhale held too long. Fear twisted inside her, threatening to boil over as Jake ambled closer to the kids dancing, seemingly unaware of the shadow lurking behind him. She forced herself to focus on Jake. He was moving with more confidence now, the weight of his past lightening with each step. But with every joyful laugh that erupted from the children, Sarah felt the chill of that old presence tightening its grip. "Just keep dancing, Jake," she murmured under her breath, willing him to feel nothing but elation. She bailed her eyes away from the stranger and directed her focus on Lily, who twirled in delight, completely uninhibited. The innocence of her joy was like a balm, easing the tension in Sarah's chest, but that figure was not disappearing, rather, it stood steadfast like a watchdog on the outskirts of their newfound joy. Time felt heavy, each tick of the clock a reminder of the old wounds Jake had never fully left behind. The thought filled Sarah with an urgency to protect the fragile moment. Suddenly, she spotted a flicker of recognition on Jake's face, and dread washed over her. He froze mid-step, body turning rigid. "Sarah?" he asked, his voice tight, laced with confusion and something darker. He glanced over his shoulder, bringing Sarah's insides to a jarring halt. "Jake," she whispered, trying to bridge the distance with a warning in her tone. But it was too late. The figure stepped closer, emerging into the light, revealing the twisted smile of Ryan, Jake's estranged father. "Surprised to see me, son?" Ryan said, his voice smooth, almost mocking. The laughter around them faded as if a theater curtain had suddenly fallen, stringing everyone into an unyielding silence. Jake's eyes widened, a mix of disbelief and old anger simmering beneath the surface. "What are you doing here?" he demanded, taking a step back. "I came to see you, Bud. I heard you were making some changes." "Figured it was time to catch up," Ryan replied, a glint of something unreadable flashing in his eyes. "Changes?" The word came out like a pinprick for Jake, a reminder of the struggles he had faced. "You think you can just waltz in now? After everything?" The energy of the dance floor shifted as the other guests took notice. Whispers vibrated through the crowd, eyes darting between the three of them. Sarah's heart raced, feeling the aftermath of an impending storm. Lily, sensing the thick tension, slipped closer to Jake, her innocent eyes searching his face. "Daddy?" she asked softly, her small fingers clutching at his side. "Stay here, sweetie," Jake replied, his voice catching. He turned to Sarah, desperation pooling in his gaze. Sarah stepped forward, her protective instincts kicking in. "You don't belong here, Ryan. You lost that right when you chose to walk away," she said, her tone firm, not wavering. "Is that what you think?" He spat back, almost too casually. "Just because you built yourselves a little life doesn't mean I can't be a part of it." Jake flinched, the storm within him raging. The walls he had started to dismantle begun to reassemble, brick by brick. "Your presence is a threat," Sarah said softly but fiercely. "You'll take him back to a place he's trying to escape." But Ryan's smile only widened. "Oh, honey, I'm just here to remind him of what family really means." The words hung heavily in the air, a taunt echoing through the night. Jake stood at a crossroads. He never expected to encounter that flicker of courage. Now battling against the tempest of his past, could he find the strength to confront his father and fortify his new path? Or would he stumble back into the torment he thought he'd left behind? As silence enveloped them, a question lingered. What would Jake choose in this moment of reckoning? The silence felt palpable, thick enough to choke on, as Jake's face twisted in confusion and anger. It was almost as if time itself had stopped. He looked at Ryan, and then back at Sarah, trapped between the pull of his past and the promise of this fleeting moment of happiness. Family. Jake finally chuckled, but it sounded more like a broken laugh than anything joyful. What do you know about family? The words bit like a sharp knife. The crowd stood frozen, breaths held, eyes flitting between the three of them. Sarah's heart raced. She wanted to yell, to scream at Ryan, to make him disappear. But worse than that was what she saw stirring in Jake, a tempest of emotion that she had hoped he had left behind. She could already sense the cracks forming in his renewed spirit, threatening to unleash the darkness he had fought so hard to overcome. "Look at you," Ryan said, condescending. "All grown up and pretending to be something you're not. You really think you can hide from your blood? You don't get to make that choice for me." Jake roared, his voice shaking from the weight of restrained pain. He took a step forward, a towering figure of resistance against the man who was supposed to nurture him, not abandon him. "Daddy?" Lily's voice cut through the tension, sweet and naive. She clutched at Jake's leg, her innocent eyes searching for reassurance amid the chaos. "Lily," just Jake's resolve faltered as his gaze softened at her. Ryan seized the moment. "See? Even she knows the truth. She wants her grandpa." "No," Sarah interjected fiercely. "She wants a father who stands strong for her, not one who crumbles at the sight of a ghost from his childhood." Jake hesitated. There was a flicker of recognition, the memory of long-held fears illuminated in his eyes. All those years spent wishing for connection, for closure that never came. Sarah could see him start to cave, the very walls he had built to protect himself wavering slightly. "Don't," she said gently, taking a step closer, her hand reaching toward him. "You're not that boy anymore. You are a loving father, a dedicated partner, and a man who has fought to find his way. You owe it to yourself and to Lily to stand tall now." Jake's breathing was ragged, each inhalation pulling in the debris of his past. Ryan's smirk twisted, an ugly reminder of the neglect and pain that had long haunted Jake's heart. "Oh, this is rich," Ryan sneered. "You think you can protect your little bubble, don't you? I'm just showing him what true family looks like." "Isn't that right, son?" Something in Jake snapped. He straightened, his jaw set, anger igniting into willpower. "You don't get to dictate who I am," he said, his voice firm with newfound strength. The crowd, previously holding its collective breath, stirred with muted murmurs, sensing the shift in the air. This was no longer just a confrontation, it was a showdown. Jake, Ryan warned, an edge creeping into his tone. "You think you can just throw me away like I'm nothing? And why should I keep you in my life?" Jake shot back, reclaiming ground he never should have lost. "You've been nothing but a ghost, a shadow, and I'm done letting shadows dictate my life. This ends tonight." An unexpected hush fell over the gathering, a collective knot of apprehension twisting in the air. Sarah stood beside Jake, a silent support that communicated strength in her stead. But before this encounter could reach its climax, something unexpected happened. The flickering lights dimmed momentarily, casting a brief darkness over them. Then, with a jolt, power surged back. Jake looked down at Lily, who gazed back up at him, filled with trust and love. "Daddy, stay with me," she pleaded, her voice trembling slightly. Looking back at Ryan, Jake felt the weight of the moment. Could he truly break free? As the tension hung unresolved in the air, the question loomed larger than ever: Would Jake embrace who he had become, or would he sit at the table of his past forever? The weight of the moment loomed over Jake like a storm cloud. His heart raced as he knelt down to meet Lily's gaze, a mix of urgency and love flooding through him. Her small hand squeezed his leg, grounding him against the chaos surrounding them. "I'm here, sweetheart," he said softly, but even he could hear the tremor of uncertainty in his voice. Across from him, Ryan's eyes glinted with twisted satisfaction. "Look at him, Lily. Your father has always been weak. He is nothing without me." The crowd shifted uncomfortably, the tension thickening with every accusatory word. "Stop it!" Sarah erupted, her voice sharp as glass. "This is between Jake and you. Leave Lily out of this." She stepped toward Ryan, fury radiating from her every pore, protecting Jake as best as she could. Jake's breath hitched. He could hear the underlying fragility in Ryan's remarks, an echo of the man who had once taken so much from him. Part of him wanted to lash out, to tear that facade away. But another part, a stronger part, recognized that he held the power now. "Lily," he said, his voice steadier this time, "I'm here for you. You're my priority." He reached for her hand, intertwining his fingers with hers, willing the strength to flow between them. In her small world, Lily represented hope, a bright spark amid shadows. With Lily by his side, Jake could face Ryan. No more darkness. "It's time for the truth to come out," he declared, his determination solidifying. Ryan scoffed. "You think you can just walk away? You owe me. I raised you." "Raised?" Jake roared, slipping back into the anger that had fueled his youth but wrapping it now with resolution. "You didn't raise me. You abandoned me. You have no right to claim me or my life anymore." The crowd murmured, surprised at the ferocity emerging from Jake. This time, his fury was not just anger, it was empowerment. Sarah's eyes lit up, she believed in him. She watched as he found footing on shaky ground, each word a brick laid in a new foundation. "I can choose my family," he continued, breathing deeply, centered by Lily's presence. "And I choose her. I choose Sarah and our life together. You're an echo, Ryan. Nothing more." The power of his declaration rippled through the crowd, a collective sigh escaping stages of healing and heartbreak. He could see doubt flicker in Ryan's eyes, but it quickly hardened into resentment. "Fool. You'll regret this." Ryan took a menacing step forward, veins bulging with rage, but Jake stood firm, blocking him from Lily. "No," Jake said, his voice low and steady. "You'll regret it if you decide to make a scene. You're nothing but a ghost in my life now. I'm a better man than you ever were. And I will protect what I love." As the gravity of Jake's words sank in, Ryan's smirk faltered. In that moment, he was no longer the predator, he had become the prey of his own creation. The crowd pulsed with anticipation, and for the first time in years, Jake felt free. But as a shadow passed over their little family, the question punctured the air: would Ryan back down, or would this confrontation spiral into something bigger, drawing everyone into its chaos? Jake looked at Sarah, silently pleading for her support, but deep down, he knew they were stepping into uncharted territory. Would they wrestle with Ryan's lingering grip on the past, or would they finally carve out their own future? The answer hung in the air like a promise, ready to be written anew. Jake felt the tension hang thick in the air, like fog rolling in on a chilly morning. Ryan's presence loomed large, filling every gap in the space around them. Sweat trickled down Jake's spine, but that familiar fear was eclipsed by his renewed strength. He took a breath and locked eyes with Sarah. Her expression was a mix of pride and worry, and in it, he found the resolve to stand tall. "Lily, sweetheart," he said, gently brushing her hair back from her face, "this is about us standing strong together. We will not let him destroy what we've built. Do you understand?" She nodded, her innocent eyes wide, reflecting both trust and determination. It ignited something in him, every heartbeat was a drum urging him on. Ryan was gearing up for another round of verbal attacks, his voice dripping with disdain. You think this changes anything? You think you can just walk away from me? He stepped closer, his size imposing, but Jake met his gaze head-on. You're delusional, Ryan. I'm creating my own family now, and it doesn't include you. It felt surreal hearing the strength in his own voice. The crowd ranged from fear to fascination, hanging on their every word like a sports game in the last few moments. People's faces reflected the tension, some whispering quick reassurances, others holding breath as everything unfolded before them. Jake continued, I've reclaimed what you took from me. Love, respect, and the right to choose who's in my life. The passion surged like a tide, sweeping away the remnants of doubt. Lily squeezed his hand, the warmth of her tiny fingers reassuring him, reminding him of the promise he made to protect her. Ryan faltered for just a moment, his bravado wavering. But in that instant it was all Jake needed to push forward. You want to make a scene? Fine. Let us take it to the truth. I am not the broken boy you abandoned anymore. I'm a man. I'm a father, and I want to let you use Lily as a pawn. Not anymore. The crowd shifted, a ripple of fresh energy pulsing through them. Sarah took a step closer, intertwining her fingers with Jake's, matching his resolve. This isn't just about you, Ryan. You're not going to cow us into submission. We've found our strength together. In the distance, he heard murmurs of approval. People leaned in, no longer strictly spectators but allies in their battle. It was no longer just Jake facing Ryan, they stood as a community, as a family united against a common threat, but Ryan wasn't ready to back down. You think you're so tough? He snarled. You're nothing without me backing you. I made you. No, Jake corrected, surprising even himself with the calm clarity in his voice. You made a mistake. And now, I'm ready to make it right without you. As silence spread, a flicker of uncertainty danced across Ryan's features. There was a crack in his facade. The weight of that moment shifted, Jake could almost feel the invisible chains falling away. Jake's heart quickened, each beat echoing hope. This is our story now. And I won't let your past haunt us any longer. Suddenly, the tension shattered as Ryan's anger boiled over. You'll regret those words. He spat, his voice a growl. Jake squared his shoulders, his resolve hardening further. No more threats, Ryan. The past has no hold on me anymore. As Ryan charged forward, Jake glanced at Lily and Sarah one last time, steeling himself for whatever was to come. Would he finally break free of Ryan's influence? Or would the shadows of his past creep back to ensnare him? The answer loomed like a storm on the horizon, ready to unleash chaos or perhaps, clarity. As Ryan lunged forward, Jake felt the adrenaline surge through him like electricity. But this time, he wasn't caught off guard, he was ready. Not just for the physical confrontation but for everything that echoed behind it. As Ryan reached out, determined to grab him, Jake sidestepped smoothly, his movements instinctual and grounded. Stop! Jake shouted, his voice slicing through the tension. He turned to face his father squarely. If you want to fight, then let us talk about the real battle. Not between us but within ourselves. A murmur rippled through the crowd, unexpected audiences leaning in, expecting a fight but getting a confrontation of truths instead. Jake's heart raced, but he pressed on, unyielding in the presence of the man who had haunted him for too long. Listen to me, Jake continued, shaking a little but not breaking under the weight of his past. The real fight is the one you've been avoiding. You left me because you were scared, and now you're trying to make me carry your guilt. I won't do it anymore. Ryan's expression shifted. For a moment, disbelief replaced anger, as if he were still processing the turnaround. You think you're better than me? He challenged. No, I am simply different. I've changed because I've fought for my life, for my family, for the things you've dismissed. Jake's confidence surged as he saw a flicker of recognition in the eyes of those around him, people who seemed to witness him reclaiming his sense of self. You abandoned me, but your insecurities won't define who I am. I define myself now. He turned to Sarah, the love emanating from her empowering him. Then, he glanced down at Lily. I'm here for you. I'm your father, and you are my heart. That is all that matters now. Tears welled in Sarah's eyes, a mixture of relief and love washing over her features. Lily smiled brightly, unaware of the full gravity of the moment but sensing the warmth of her father's words. With unbreakable intent, Jake turned back to Ryan. This is where the cycle ends. I will not raise Lily in the echoes of your darkness. I will build a life with her that is filled with light and love, something you never gave me. With every breath and word, Jake felt the chains of past trauma loosening, the remnants of his father's hold disintegrating. Ryan stood frozen, visibly shaken as realization washed over him. The control he had wielded was slipping through his fingers. Just then, a hand rose from the crowd, a woman's. You're not alone, Jake. Another voice cried, and unexpected camaraderie flooded the space as more voices joined in. You have a community. You don't need him. You're a survivor. The energy surged, people stepped forward, forming an invisible barrier between Jake and Ryan, creating a protective wall woven with acceptance and solidarity. It was a sight to behold, a community rallying together in one shared heartbeat that spoke volumes. Jake's heart swelled. Look, Ryan, he said calmly yet firmly, you may have been there in my past, but you don't get to dictate my future. I've discovered the strength in vulnerability and love, something you never understood. Ryan's face twisted into a mask of anger, but it faltered when he was met with the empathy from the faces around him. He was outnumbered by love. Lily whispered, Dad, can we go home? Together? The innocence in her voice pierced through the thick tension, grounding Jake. He nodded, looking deep into her trusting eyes, reassuring her that they were safe. Jake turned back to Ryan. I forgive you, but I will not forget. I'm moving forward, and if you choose to follow, you'll have to earn it. You'll have to face your demons too. There was a resolution buried in his words, a commitment to himself that had finally taken roots. In that moment, the air seemed to clear, and Ryan's facade cracked. The shadows lingered, but Jake could feel a shift. It was the first time he had truly stood up for himself, for his family, and for what he deserved. A smile emerged from Jake, a painful, beautiful smile that echoed hope. The warmth radiated, loosening the last remnants of fear. Jake's heart overflowed with gratitude for the community and strength surrounding him. Together, they would walk forward. Let us go home, Lily, he said softly, enveloping his daughter in his arms as she beamed with pride. He glanced at Sarah, and they shared a moment, a silent promise that together, they could weather any storm. As they left the chaos behind, a weight had been lifted. This was the beginning, not of the end, but of the life they had longed for. With every step, they moved away from darkness and toward a bright horizon filled with possibility and unconditional love, and above all, Jake finally understood, vulnerability wasn't a weakness, it was a path to strength. Now, it's time for you to act. Subscribe immediately to the channel so you won't miss the next exclusive stories that could touch your heart. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm and help others find inspiration in these transformations. Comment below with your reactions and feelings about this heartfelt ending. And share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this transformation. You need to spread this message. Don't wait not even one more second. True fans know how important it is to support our community through these actions.